I was practicing a guitar solo 30 or 40 times in a row. It was after midnight. My hands wouldn't relax. The solo kept running through my head and through my fingers, even when I tried to stop. And at some point I saw it. This wasn't about the music anymore. This is chapter 12. This podcast works through the 81 chapters of the Daodejing, one at a time, not as history, not as philosophy to understand and then set aside, but as a practice manual for living. No belief required, no doctrine, just what can be noticed, sat with, and verified in your own experience. You don't need to have heard the earlier episodes. Just start here. Tao will meet you where you are. I've been working on a guitar solo for weeks. Travis picking, fingerstyle, a passage I couldn't quite get clean. The other night it was after midnight and I was still at it. 30, 40 times through the same phrases. My hands wouldn't relax. The solo kept running in my head when I tried to put the guitar down. I'd lie down and the fingerings would keep moving. I'd close my eyes and hear the passage. My body was being driven by something that wouldn't let it rest. At some point that night, something quieted enough for me to actually look at what was happening, and I saw it. This wasn't about the music anymore. I've been telling myself I was practicing, cultivating the craft, doing the work. But what was actually running underneath the practicing was something much older. A pursuit, a hunt for some condition in which I would finally be enough. The art was the cover. The hunt was using the art. I'd gone kind of mad and I couldn't see that it was no longer about the art. The chase of the hunt maddens the heart. I sat there with the guitar in my lap and the recognition just held me there for a while. Here's the chapter. Chapter 12, Stomach, Not Eyes. 5 colors blind, 5 tones deafen, 5 flavors dull the palate. The chase of the hunt maddens the heart. Hard-won goods trip one's movement. So, the deep listener is for the stomach, not the eyes. So leaves that, takes this. So a few notes on my translation of chapter 12. The opening triplet uses what are called bound compounds in Chinese. So mu mang, are long. The body part and the verb are one tight unit. Most translations expand these into the 5 colors blind the eyes, the 5 tones deafen the ears, naming the body part explicitly in English. I went the other direction, 5 colors blind, 5 tones deafen. The English verb already carries the body part. Blind implies eyes, deafen implies ears. Adding the organ name in English would just be redundant in a way the Chinese isn't. The compactness of the bound compound translates as the bare verb. Then the third line shifts. The verb in that line is doing slightly different work. It's not as tightly bound to the body part, so the English does need the object, so I render it as dulls the palate. The asymmetry is in the Chinese itself. The English just follows it. Then the fourth line, racing, galloping at full speed. Tian Lia, that's the hunt. Galloping into the hunt would be the literal phrase. I went with chase of the hunt because chase in English carries both physical pursuit and the psychological pattern. Chasing a feeling, chasing a result, chasing the next thing. The Chinese phrase has both meanings at once, the chase of the hunt keeps that double register. Fa Kuang is issue forth madness. Madness arising from inside, not imposed from outside. The heart goes mad. Not gets driven mad by something external. The hunt structure produces the madness from within the hunter. Nanduk Hua, hard-won goods. Same phrase appears in Chapter 3 when I rendered the line as rare items. It's a different context, so a different reading. Chapter 3 is about the social effect of prizing scarce things. Chapter 12 is about the personal effect of pursuing them. Hard won foregrounds the cost of acquisition, the way the goods keep affecting you after you have them. The next line shows how. Xing Fang. Fang isn't generic harm, it's obstruction, interference. Xiang means conduct, the way you move through the world. So it trips one's movement. The goods get in your gait. You walk differently because you have them, because you're guarding them, because you're calculating around them. The body's ease is interfered with. The closing two lines, wei fu, bu wei mo, means for the stomach, not the eyes. Not acts for, which adds strategic agency, just as for, oriented toward. The deep listener doesn't choose the stomach, they're constituted that way. Inward signal over outward spectacle. The body's actual hunger over the eye's restless seeking. Leaves that, takes this. There's two demonstratives. The chapter ends on a gesture, putting one thing down, picking the other up. The reader has to feel back through the chapter to know what this and that refer to. That's the chapter's method. Meaning lives in the arrangement, not in the explanation. Zhuangzi tells this story. A man hated his shadow, hated his own footprints. He decided he would run away from them, faster and faster. But the faster he ran, the more footprints he made. The more he tried to outrun his shadow, the more closely it kept up. He believed he wasn't running fast enough, so he ran harder. He kept running until he died of exhaustion. He didn't know, Zhuangzi says, that if he had simply stepped into the shade, the shadow would have vanished. If he had stopped moving, the footprints would have stopped accumulating. And that's this chapter. The shadow runner is the line about the chase making someone mad in human form. The chase that makes the heart mad isn't mad because the runner is bad or weak. It's mad because the structure of the chase guarantees that the thing being chased can never be caught by chasing. Run faster, more shadows. Cut harder, more resistance. Practice longer, more striving. The hunt's logic eats itself. The 5 colors, the 5 tones, the 5 flavors. These are much easier to see. We all know the body that has eaten too much, the eyes that have looked at too many screens, the mouth that can no longer taste plain rice because it's been seasoned and salted and sweetened past its own knowing. Anyone reading this in any era can find their version. Eating past fullness, drinking past pleasure. Smoking weed every night until the body forgets what unaltered feels like. Streaming until the screen is just a wall of noise the eyes have stopped seeing. The chapter doesn't moralize. It just names what happens to the perceptual apparatus under sustained, intense stimulation. It dulls. The aperture closes. What was sensitive becomes numb. What was responsive becomes compulsive. And that's an easy part of the chapter. Where I feel it really does its work is in the chase. Hustle culture is the shadow runner, industrial scale, optimized, never let up racing and hunting, the grind, the wake up at 5, the side hustle stacked on the day job, stacked on the personal brand, running faster from the same shadow. Status seeking is the shadow runner, the credentials, the titles, the certifications, the position jockey, looking around to see who has more. Chasing likes is the shadow runner, chasing followers, chasing attention. The phone in the morning before the eyes are fully open, scanning for the next hit of acknowledgement. And the cleanest, hardest one, what got me at 2 a.m. with the guitar, is the chase that wears the clothes of cultivation. The shadow runner who looks like a monk. The pursuit of perfection in your work that isn't actually about the work. The fitness regimen that isn't actually about health. The reading regimen that isn't about understanding. The meditation practice that isn't about presence. That's become another arena for striving, another place where you measure yourself, another hunt with a more refined object. These are all the same shape. The runner getting more tired, the shadow getting no smaller, driven motion, no internal stopping point, the body increasingly unable to rest, the heart in quang, a quiet madness the system can't see because it has all the trappings of doing the right thing. When the activity is genuinely for itself, playing the music because the music is happening, working because the work needs doing, practicing because the practice is alive, the system has a natural arc. Engagement, completion, rest. Engagement, completion, then rest. The body knows when it's done. The mind quiets when the work concludes. When the activity is a hunt for something behind the activity, for worthiness, for safety, for proof of existence, for the moment when you'll finally be enough, there's no completion possible because the thing you're hunting can't be caught by what you're doing. The guitar solo, no matter how clean, can't justify your existence. The next promotion can't make you finally okay. The next post that goes viral can't fill the hole the post is reaching toward. So the hunt continues, and the body, asked to keep running with no destination, eventually goes mad, wired, unable to rest, hands that won't stop, a mind that won't stop, a heart that won't stop. This is the condition our culture has industrialized. The pursuit of becoming enough has been monetized at every level. Every product, every platform, every institution sells some version of, here's what's missing, here's how to get it, here's the chase you need to be on. The economy runs on 不知足, not knowing what's enough. The Daodejing names that condition 2,500 years ago in chapter 46. There's no calamity greater than not knowing what's enough. Zhuangzi has another image we're sitting with. He talks about the artisan Cui who could draw a perfect circle freehand. His finger and the thing he was making changed together with the changes of nature. He didn't have to think about it. His mind was a forgetting kind of mind, Zhuangzi says. He forgot his foot when the shoe was comfortable, forgot his waist when the belt was right, and forgot the right and the wrong when the heart was at ease. That's the forgetting that goes on forgetting it has forgotten. The forgetting that goes on forgetting it has forgotten. That's what's underneath stomach, not eyes. Not the moralized choice of one over the other. The condition where the question doesn't come up because the body is already where it needs to be. The shoe fits, the belt fits, the work fits. The deep listener is for the stomach, not the eyes. The stomach knows when it's full. That's its whole job. It registers a real signal, actual hunger, actual sufficiency. It's a body truth, not a mind construct. When you're for the stomach, you act from that signal. You eat when you're hungry. You stop when you're full. You work when there's work to be done. You rest when you're tired. You play music because there's music to be played, and stop when the music wants to stop. The eyes don't have that signal. The eyes are the shadow runner's eyes. They scan. They compare. They reach. They want the next thing because the last thing didn't deliver and the next one might. The eyes will pull you through a museum at the pace of someone late for a flight, never letting you stop in front of any one piece long enough to actually see it. So let's slow down for a moment. Not metaphorically, actually slow down. Imagine you're in a museum. The room is quiet. You're standing in front of a painting you've heard of your whole life, but never really looked at. Let's pretend it's Van Gogh's Wheat Field with Crows, one of the last things he made. You can let your shoulders drop a little. Let the breath come down into the belly. Look at the wheat first. Let your eyes find one of the brushstrokes, just one. Notice how thick the paint is, how he didn't smooth it, didn't blend it, didn't try to hide the gesture of his hand. The strokes are there as strokes. You can almost feel the loaded brush moving across the canvas. The wheat isn't a picture of wheat. It's wheat strokes. Yellow on yellow, on ochre on gold. Each one a small, physical fact. Notice what your breath does as you look. Now the sky, a heavy blue. The blue of a storm that hasn't broken yet. Notice how it presses down on the wheat. Notice how it doesn't sit politely behind the wheat the way a sky in a calmer painting would. The sky is coming forward. The crows are scattered throughout it, black marks, not detailed birds, just the shape of crows. The gesture of crows, made with 2 or 3 strokes each. Where are they going? Stay with that for a breath. Notice what you're feeling. Not what you're supposed to feel. Not the educated response. The actual response in the body. Maybe something is unsettled. Maybe something is held by it. Maybe nothing. Just the noticing. 3 paths cut through the wheat. They go in different directions. One curves to the left, one to the right, one straight ahead into the storm. You can stay here as long as you want. Now maybe you want to move on. Not because you've satisfied some requirement to appreciate the art. Not because you needed to prove you were sophisticated or cultured or the kind of person who looks at paintings the right way. You can move on because you took it in. You're satisfied. The painting has done what it does, and you've received what it gave. There's no remaining hunger pulling you back, and no one to perform the looking for. That's stomach, not eyes. That's what perception feels like when it isn't being hunted with. The last line leaves that, takes this. What I had to do that night, the night with the guitar, was put it down. Not as discipline, not as renunciation, just as recognition that what was happening in the room was no longer the thing it was pretending to be. The hands that wouldn't relax weren't practicing. They were running from something they would never outrun by playing better. When I put the guitar down, what came up wasn't peace exactly. It was the feeling underneath the chase, whatever the hunt had been outrunning. I sat with that for a while, didn't try to fix it, stepped into the shade. The next time I picked up the guitar, the practice was different, not because I'd solved anything, because the orientation had shifted. The music was for the music. The hands could relax between phrases. The body could rest when it was tired. The pursuit had loosened its grip enough that the actual practice could come back through. The shoe fit again. I forgot it. The man who tried to outrun his shadow, he could have stepped into the shade. You can put it down. The shadow goes with you only as long as you keep running. Stomach, not eyes. 我色令人目盲，我音令人耳聋，我味令人口爽，驰骋田猎，令人心发狂。难得之货，令人行妨。时以圣人为父，不为目，故去彼取此。